Hi guys, I'm back with a review of two books I read last week. One is Empty by Suzanne Weyn, and the other is Divergent by Veronica Roth. And I'm just going to give you a review of both of them. First one, Empty. This one kind of grabbed my attention. I really liked the cover of it, thought it was interesting, and the blurb on the back sounded really cool. What it is it's the future, 10 years from now, and the world has run out of fossil fuels. So we're running out of gas, oil, and because of that, there's no driving, supplies aren't getting to shopping malls, no food, food's running out, even electricity, things like that, all the basic needs. Even things that are made with oil, plastics and things like that, are starting to become short. And the book follows three teens, Nikki, Tom, and Gwen. Gwen lives with her older brother. Her father has recently passed away, and the mother ran out on them about a year ago. And she lives next to Tom, who she has a crush on. He lives like in the house behind her. He's kind of like the football player. His father's recently passed away, and he lives with his mother. And Nikki, the other main character, lives on the more affluent part of town with her parents, and Tom has a crush on her. So it's kind of like a bit of a love triangle. That never really goes very far in the book. It's just basically touched on. It almost seems like it's unimportant to the story. There's some other basic characters in there that don't really stand out that much. This book I found, I guess I came in with little preconceived notions of what I expected it to be. More of a survivalist type story, where they're trying to find ways to survive in this new society. Excuse me, my dog is kind of peeking in here. Settle down, buddy. Okay, there you go. That was Skippy making an appearance. So yeah, like I came in thinking maybe I've been reading too many dystopian books, and I was expecting something more of a survivalist story where they're going to have to find ways to, filter their own water, create their own electricity supplies, hunt for their own food. But it's not that far in the future. It is only basically 10 years from now. Gas prices are in this world starting to hit around $18 a gallon. I mean, it was kind of interesting to me to want to read this because of what's going on in society today. We're talking maybe $5 a gallon of gas. I'm thinking how horrible that is. Iran blocking oil supplies to the UK, things along that lines. But I expected this to be more dystopic, and it wasn't. There wasn't a lot of action. The dialogue, it just seemed kind of bland. The characters were bland. They don't really develop very much. They seem maybe typical teens, but they seem more worried about who they're going to take to the next, the yearly bonfire rather than where they're going to get food from. On that note, I'd say it just kind of failed for me, maybe because of my expectations. It was very slow paced, and there's not much to this book. You think it would have been a very fast read, and it still took me several days to get through it. Because of that, I can only give it like a 1 out of 5 stars. I was a bit disappointed on it. I think maybe if it was pushed further back in time, further from now, and more had developed with society, and there was more of a struggle and things like that, I would have found it more interesting and would have held my attention better. And if the rating scale was a little bit more approved, but because of that, my rating was kind of low. So 1 out of 5 stars for Empty. Basically, I hate to be punny, but it ran out of gas for me. The other one, Divergent by Veronica Roth. I'm going to read a little bit about this. This takes place it is a dystopian book. It takes place in Chicago, so for me that was a little more interesting, living in the suburbs of Chicago. I like the descriptions of things and everything. I'm going to read a little section from the book here that kind of describes the society in a nutshell here. Decades ago, our ancestors realized that it is not political ideology, religious beliefs, race, or nationalism that is to blame for our warring world. Rather, they determined that it was the fault of human personality, of humankind's inclination toward evil, in whatever form that is. They divided into factions that sought to eradicate those qualities they believed responsible for the world's disarray. Those who blamed aggression formed amity. Those who blamed ignorance became erudite. Those who blamed duplicity created candor. Those who blamed selfishness made abnegation. And those who blamed cowardice were dauntless. So again, the society is divided into 5 factions. Candor, which are the honest, abnegation, the selfless, dauntless, the brave, amity, the peaceful, and erudite, the intelligent. Now the story follows one main protagonist, Beatrice, who later changes her name to Tris. She grows up in a family of abnegation with her slightly older brother, and he's only less than a year older than she is, and her mother and father. They're coming up on their 16th birthday, and one day every year there's a big I think how they describe it is that a ceremony, basically a ceremony, where all 16-year-olds have to decide which faction they will follow for the rest of their life. It may not necessarily be the faction that they grew up in. They go through a series of kind of examinations and testings that determines where their affinities lie, whether they might be more candor or more erudite, whatever. But that doesn't necessarily mean that that's going to be what the choice is. They still have the right to choose, regardless of what these testings show. And so she grows up in a family of abnegation. That's very hard to say, and doesn't always quite feel like she is as selfless as the rest of her family is. Particularly her brother seems to come so naturally to her, and so she has all these doubts. She's insecure and worried about what decision she's going to make. Because once you make the decision, if you choose outside of your family's faction, you no longer have any connections to them. It's faction over blood. So she comes to this decision, which I'm not going to tell you what her decision is. And once all the candidates make their decision and they go to join their new faction, they have to go through a period of initiation, which is challenges and things that they have to overcome to prove that they belong in this new faction. If they should fail in this initiation process, they become what is known as factionless, which is sort of like the homeless of society. They have no connections to anybody else. They're just separated from society. They're like ignored. And I like this book because I like the growth of the characters. I love the world building in it. There's a little bit of romance, which I think will develop more in the books to follow. There's a lot of action, violence, the friendships and things that form in the book. It's just very well written, very well world building. Like I said, I love the development of the main character. There's an antagonist named Peter, which you'll just love to hate. He's just awful. I'm not going to get into too much about what Divergent, what the title refers to, or what the symbol is here. That you'll learn as Triss learns in the story what that means and what it means to her personally. But again, like I said, Veronica Roth has written a fabulous book here. The next book, Insurgent, comes out on May 1st of this year. This book I have is a hardcover version. It is now currently in paperback, a trade paperback that just came out as well. So sequel, May 1st. I can't wait for it. I give it 5 out of 5 stars. I thought it was fantastic, and I think you'll enjoy it. Empty, if you want to just learn a little bit about where our society might be headed, you can give it a read. It's almost like a novelization of a textbook, so not great, but interesting. But again, only 1 out of 5 stars for that one. That's all I have for you this week. I will be coming up with another in my mailbox pretty soon. I did a little shopping, picked up some books, and I'll follow up with another video on that pretty soon. Thanks for stopping by.